Welcome to Grid Live Wrap-Up, NASCAR Cup Series at Kansas Speedway, a thrilling finish to a thrilling race. MotoGP has a new 7-time champion. The comeback has been completed for Marc Marquez, Joe San Diego, and with me, Kobe Lambeth from Grid Tonight and Matthew Bro from GridNetworkTV.com. Encourage everyone, scan the QR code to visit Grid Network TV, and of course, after the show, Matthew's article will be posted up. I'm going to remove that just so we can thank our Patreon investors, Colin, Deshelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network throughout 2025 and so many other years too, since we're really getting started. A lot of these investors have been investing in us for quite some time. Encourage you. Link in the video description. Go to our Patreon website page, invest in us each and every month. We'll add your name to the leaderboard. And of course, you could do a one-time investment through Buy Me a Coffee or YouTube Super Chat. We'll thank you on the air. And as I mentioned, GridNetworkTV.com and across social media at Grid Network TV. Of course, Matthew is going to have his article recapping this race, the Hollywood Casino 400. Matthew, let's get started with the Hollywood Casino 400 because Kansas Speedway, I felt like earlier today when we were on the air for the pre-race show, we said it would be a Toyota and Chevrolet affair. Sure enough, it became a Toyota, and really Chevrolet was just there, but they were still up there. We said pit stops, strategies, they were going to be very important. We saw some of those stops were costly. Some of them were great for some drivers. We saw 9 cautions. We said there will be at least 7 continuing that trend. 9, 2 of them, of course, the double overtime, and one of the most dramatic finishes in quite some time, all leading up for Chase Elliott, NASCAR's most popular driver, to take advantage of the 5 Toyotas to steal the win. He got around Reddick, Bell, Wallace, Hamlin to bring Chevrolet their first win. Briscoe in there as well too. While everyone had stopped for 2 tires, he stopped for 4 tires. First couple of restarts, I didn't think it was going to be much of a factor, but it slowly came out that he was going to. And then as the Toyotas were all fighting each other, Wallace having Bell on the outside goes into the wall. Then, of course, we're going to talk a lot about Hamlin and Wallace. Those two get into it. Here comes Chase Elliott on the bottom, the inside to take that win. And now he is locked into the round of 8. Second win of the season. How big of a relief is this for Chase Elliott and that team to claim this big win at Kansas?
First, before I say anything, the reason why you heard the stream is I was sharing it on social media and it was really loud. I didn't turn my sound off, so I apologize to everyone listening at home with that random sound burst. But yeah, it was a huge relief for Chase Elliott. I think we failed to realize he was 14 points above the cut line, which heading into this event, he was 7th in the standings, which means that if something bad happened, like he had an Austin Cindric got into someone else's mess type of day, Chase Elliott would need to go and almost win at the Roval. So for him to be able to come out and essentially steal one from these Toyota heavy hitters that put belt to butt this entire event, that's a huge relief and truly incredible at the end for a great call to come in for 4 tires. Alan Gustafson, I know the Chase Elliott fans, they give him a lot of crap, but that was a great call on their end. Came with some luck. I mean, you can't deny that if just, 3, 4, probably 5 seconds later, if that big accident didn't come out, Bubba and Bell would have crossed the line to hit the white flag, and that would have ended the race, and Chase Elliott would have been stuck in either 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that. But restarting 10th, best car on new tires, I mean, then when he didn't lift and door slammed Hamlin, you had to do what you got to do. And it was truly an incredible drive from Chase Elliott. I think he led 24 laps. It's a huge relief for them. And unfortunately, for the second week in a row, it seemed like Toyota teammates, or I guess you could just, not Joe Gibbs specifically, but, Toyota manufacturer teammates, almost screwed each other out of a good performance. So good for Chase Elliott. He first win since Atlanta, second win of the season. It's one of those things. I don't think any of us really thought he was going to continue to at a decent pace because it seems like he had fallen off a little. I had him in the next round, but I don't think he was going to go much farther than that. But for him, it's just like What a race for Chase Elliott. They're going to be ringing that siren really loud. You could probably hear it from your house. None of us are near Georgia right now, but I bet it's going right now. So shout out to him. Huge relief for Hendrick Motorsports too, who obviously you lose Bowman in one round. You don't want to lose another driver in pretty much each round. And William Byron had a crappy day and ended up doing pretty okay. So I think it's a huge win for Hendrick Motorsports for their playoff guys, and especially Chase Elliott.
Huge for Chase Elliott, especially because this is a driver, one win, very quiet, puts himself in the right place in the right time to capitalize on the win. Yeah, you can see like he still had to run good all day, and he did that. He ran well all day. Got to feel pretty good then about Las Vegas when that's going to be in the next round, the mile and a half there. And just to get this win, I think, as you said, the siren, that's going to be going off all night. Anytime one of the popular drivers in NASCAR gets a win, I just think that gets people talking. That's going to spread all the fans. Hey, get engaged because Chase Elliott might be in the running for the championship. Of course, he still has the round of 8 in those 3 races and some of the other competitors, one of them being Blaney, to contend with. But at least you could just go out there and just go to the Roval, try to get the win, try to get as many stage points, but no pressure. If things doesn't work out, he doesn't have to worry about being eliminated because he is locked in. And what a great way for him to start that week of preparation for him and the team. For Bubba Wallace and that team, oh man, what looked like the opportunity of Denny Hamlin's power steering going away, him taking the lead, holding off Christopher Bell. Then we started the white flag lap. Denny Hamlin's behind Christopher Bell, Briscoe, Elliott. He had just gone around Tyler Reddick. As I mentioned, Elliott was the only driver with 4 fresh tires. Everyone else had taken 2 tires in that last stop. And Denny Hamlin had no power steering. Gets on the inside of Bubba Wallace as they enter turn 3. Cars clearly pushing, and at the same time, he had been driving at least 30-plus laps without power steering. Tired out, Bubba Wallace goes into the wall. Denny Hamlin loses that momentum. Here comes Chase Elliott. He gets the win. During the cool down lap, it's been spread across social media. Bubba Wallace stuck his hand out and gave the middle finger to Denny Hamlin. And Bubba, in the post-race interview, he just said it. That it was a, quote, dumbass for that move, unquote. I think he did try to paint some positive, which was he gained 1 point. So instead of being 27 points below the cut line, he is now 26 points below the cut line, which is something where it's like, okay, it's the one positive, literally 1 point. But now the next race is the Roval. He is still below the cut line. In fact, 23.11 is below the cut line, and their best opportunity for a win goes out the window. How much does this sting for Bubba, knowing his team owner cost him the win and a chance at the championship?
It's like if you get road burn and dump alcohol on it. I mean, that it stings a lot. And I mean, Bubba Wallace has every right to give Denny Hamlin the middle finger and call him a, quote, dumbass because, quote, end quote, it was a, quote, dumbass, quote, end quote move. It was, and it happens. And it was just racing, though. Let's get that out of the way. It obviously wasn't intentional. It was just a racing deal where Denny Hamlin got tight, which he said in his interview, went up the track and got into Bubba, who Bubba then hit the wall. It happens. And the only reason why it stings more is because it happened being Denny Hamlin. It wasn't Chase Briscoe. It wasn't Christopher Bell. It wasn't Tyler Reddick. And it wasn't Chase Elliott. It was his co-owner, Denny Hamlin, who they, in the past, those two, anytime they're near each other, they race each other hard regardless of what the haters on social media say. And I feel like I want to ask the people in 2022 who said, oh, Denny Hamlin laid down and let Bubba win that race in Kansas. We would have seen the same exact thing happen in that 2022 race as we did in 2025 if Hamlin could get close to Bubba. That's just how they race. It is what it is for them. So absolutely, Bubba can be really mad, and it stings knowing that his team owner did inevitably cost him a chance at moving into the next round. But then again, everyone was driving aggressive. Bubba ran Bell up too. It happens. It's just racing. I mean, if you're a Bubba fan, you have every right to be mad. If you're a Hamlin fan, you have every right to be mad. Toyota, same thing. You have every right to be mad. But at the same time, it is one of those things. It just happens. And if you're Chase Elliott, you have to be super excited. And pretty much everyone who doesn't like 2311 or Bubba Wallace or Toyota in general, Denny Hamlin, they're all happy. But of course, it stings more than anything that could have possibly happened to Bubba Wallace in this race is to have a crappy car, his words, not mine, but have a crappy car to start the race, go from 7th back to 16th, be the first car to start the pit road cycle in stage 1, and then for him to pretty much make up all that momentum, run up in the top 5, top 6 in stage 2, and then have a legitimate shot with a great pit stop to go win this race towards the end. He only led 13 laps, but I mean, he was a legitimate threat. He was one of the drivers to watch, and he showed why Kansas is still a strong suit for him. But then you look at it, it's one of those things. I truly doubt Bubba Wallace or Tyler Reddick will make it to the next round. I know they both, speaking of 2311, if Denny Hamlin didn't drive aggressively, he could have very well had Bubba into the next round and him into the next round with Tyler Reddick a chance to win at the Roval. However, why in the heck would Hamlin do that? He has no reason to lay down and not try to win a race to earn number 60, which is historic. He just passed Kevin Harvick in laps led. Could you imagine if he tied him in career wins in that same race? Would have been awesome, especially at Kansas. He would have had 5 Kansas wins. So Hamlin doesn't owe anyone anything about this either. I think, sure, it was a, quote, dumbass move, quote. But at the same time, it's racing, guys. You could be mad, you could be happy, sad, whatever conflicting feelings are going on in your mind, your heart, your whole entire body right now. It's just racing. It happens. Unfortunately, it's going to cost Bubba and it's going to cost 2311 a chance at a championship, but it happens. And there's nothing you can do unless Bubba really uses Shane Van Gisbergen. And they're close friends now. They ran the Legend cars, Joe Ryan race cars. Those two clearly have become close friends. And maybe he can take some pointers from him or Tyler Reddick and try to go win the Roval, because other than that, there's not really a chance in heck that those two guys are going to advance unless they win. So that's just my thoughts on it. I encourage people in the chat room to comment how they feel about this whole Hamlin and Wallace situation. However, I do want to point out before, as I continue to yap, before I send it to you, Joe, my apologies in advance. If this was Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher getting to each other, or Brad getting into Priest, or literally you can go down the list. If this was Michael McDowell getting into Hocevar, Justin Haley, and Nicole Custer, we wouldn't even be talking about it that much. But because it was these two specific drivers, who happens one co-owns the other one, they're both the same, obviously, manufacturer. They both race each other hard. And they're both clearly disliked by the population for whatever reasons they want to give. I don't care personally. That's why we're going to have a huge segment on this, because that it happens. If this was, like I said, Buescher and Keselowski, co-owner and driver, battling for a win, I would have shut up probably 3 minutes ago. But it's just trying to just talk about the points, right? So now I will gladly be quiet. Joe give his answer with my high-pitched Central New York voice yapping over here, guys. I apologize, but it was an exciting race. That's why my voice is even higher than usual.
It was a thrilling race. I think for Bubba, what's going to make this thing more is this is the playoffs. If this was Kansas back in the regular season, yeah, it would sting if this happened. But you're also thinking the mindset of, well, we'll come back next race weekend, try to get a win, try to get those points for the playoffs. What stings is this is the playoffs, and the next race is the Roval. Life did not get easier with that last lap. I think the way he interviewed with Kim down in pit road, I think showed that, because he even said, if I'm more mature, I probably would say something dumb. Mm-hmm. I don't think he said anything dumb. I think what he said in calling Denny's move, still any driver would do that. Any driver would be upset from that. I mean, I think of what Tyler Reddick went through trying to make a move at Darlington on Chris Buescher, didn't work, ruined their days. And Chris Buescher's co-owner, gets around, gets the win. it's just hard racing. And in this format where the win you're in, yeah, I know Bubba probably would have loved to thought that, hey, Danny's gonna race me clean. He's not gonna try anything too aggressive. Denny Hamlin will race you aggressive. He's gonna go out there and try to get that win. Unfortunately, didn't work out for either one. I think part of it has to be the issue with the power steering. I mean, 30 plus laps, he was worn out. And Bubba Wallace was just as aggressive. I mean, how he raced Christopher Bell. I think this is really going to sting for Toyota a lot more. Just the thought we had 5 cars in the top 5, and a Chevrolet got around all 5 of them. That cannot feel good. Like if you watch the onboard of Chase Elliott in that last run, how he gets around Reddick, he gets around Briscoe, Bell, and then the last 2 of Wallace and Hamlin. What an effort. He earned that win. But it's just going to sting, I think, for a while. And for Denny Hamlin, especially because when you look at it, 23-11, potentially, well, most likely a double elimination next race weekend at the Roval, unless they get a win, which if people are already looking at DraftKings, they're going to see Shane Van Gisbergen is the early favorite for next race weekend. Then the team has a very uncertain upcoming few months with the court case scheduled for December. What happens to their non-existent charters because they're running as open teams? Last weekend, Denny Hamlin, the co-owner, ruffled feathers at Joe Gibbs Racing with how he raced Ty Gibbs. There have been some talks like maybe he had let the emotions get to him. Hamlin post-raced, he said he really wanted this win so badly, but it got away. Now, of course, a win is a win. I think if Brad Keselowski was in that same situation, he would try to race his own teammate hard, try to go for the win and say, hey, I wanted that win so bad, but I didn't want that to happen. We know if there was no overtime, he probably would have won this race because he had a pretty good lead. And despite not having power steering, he was still putting in fast laps. But of course, I think since this is Denny Hamlin, who you're either on the bandwagon or you're off the bandwagon, or as he says, you're going to get run over. People are saying he didn't see the bigger picture. Do you think that's fair criticism? Denny Hamlin didn't need to make that move?
I absolutely think, regardless of how you feel about this, I think it is completely fair to criticize Denny Hamlin, and I say it's completely fair to say that he had every right to do what he had to do. It's truly one of those definition of it's a racing deal, and it really goes both ways. And for 23-11, just to talk, Reddick has the 6th best, and Bubba has the 9th best average finish at the Roval. So it's hope, I guess, but as the wide words of Ted Lasso, it's the hope that kills you. So I don't know if they're going to really get it done there. But it's truly fair criticism to say, Denny Hamlin, what the heck are you doing? Racing so overly aggressive, running your car into the wall, pretty much, because none of those guys were going to lift. And why would you lift? And then when they inevitably had to lift, Chase Elliott did not lift and said, boom, and just won the race. That's how that went for Toyota. So, yeah, Denny Hamlin, you can say he didn't see the bigger picture, and I think it's fair, but at the same time, it's also fair to criticize those people who say that, because why is Denny Hamlin going to roll over at a chance win number 60 and make history? Most laps he's ever led at a 1.5 intermediate track. I believe it was 159 laps, almost at 160. And it's interesting because he led so much, yet this race was not as boring as when Kyle Larson put belt to butt last time here at Kansas. It's just one of those things. There was so much action, and it goes to show Kansas needs a playoff race. Even if they even if they eventually only have one race, they better keep it in the playoffs. That's really that. But yeah, I think it's fair. You can say Denny Hamlin didn't need to do that, but you never know when your next win is going to be. And there were 36 other drivers in the field that probably wouldn't have lifted either to go try to win that race. So it's Denny Hamlin, every right to do what he did. And for Bubba Wallace and that, he has every right to flip him off and call him a dummy. It's just, that's what happens. And I think if you have an opinion other than that, where you don't give one credit to both sides, I feel like you're just being biased about it. It's like you have personal emotions against those drivers. And I see even on Facebook, you see it in groups. A lot of groups are attacking Hamlin, or a lot of groups are attacking Bubba. And then Chase Elliott groups are thumbs up, heart emoji, all that stuff. So it's one of those things. Yeah, it could go either way. And I think for Hamlin, he's not even cooling off. Like you could say, oh, he's slumping, he's getting aggressive and stuff. If Hamlin didn't have a crappy pit stop, I just wanted to touch on this. I'm so sorry for talking so much.
No worries.
If Denny Hamlin did not have that horrible pit stop where he lost 5 spots and went from 1st to 6th because the jack, obviously replacement Jackman, and it happens, again, racing deal. It's not just a driver sport, it's a team sport. And if that doesn't happen, I'm sure if Denny Hamlin gets the front row with Christopher Bell or with Bubba Wallace, I think Denny Hamlin smooth sails to victory. I don't think anyone could have got into him. I really don't. And that's how it went. And I want to touch 2311 and mention Tyler Reddick too. I know Bubba was mad at him on the radio, but Tyler Reddick, same thing. He did everything he could to help his teammate try to win. He apologized on the radio, did it, but then again, Tyler Reddick really doesn't owe anyone stuff. I know it's great to have one car, but Reddick's got a lot of stuff going on too. And he was going to try to win this race. He had the pace, setbacks, pit crew errors, just like per usual. He has the worst rated pit crew of the playoff drivers, and it killed him again. But I don't think all these guys really don't owe each other anything. It's just racing. It's just racing.
It's racing. And the way this format works, I think of one moment where it was Chase Briscoe asked, how are the points looking? And they told him, if Bubba Wallace wins this, you're going to be +1 entering the Roval. He tried to make the move for the win too around Christopher Bell, but couldn't make that work. And then Bubba Wallace on the inside. This format, you have to get that win, or else you're facing elimination. And Chase Briscoe has not had a bad race. The only driver to finish in the top 10 of every playoff race. And had Bubba Wallace gotten that win, he'd be single digits within that. That's too close for comfort when you're coming to the Roval. Denny Hamlin, could he receive criticism from some folks saying he didn't see the bigger picture, that maybe he should have just stuck more on the inside? Maybe, but that doesn't assure him a win. Points-wise, yeah, he's looking good. I just think this is one of those deals. He's a racing driver. You don't let up. I'm 100% convinced Brad Keselowski would have done the same thing. And if Keselowski did the same thing to Buescher, I'm pretty sure Buescher would also do the same thing Bubba Wallace did on the cooldown lap. The one thing I think people are really fired up to is the idea, well, what if Denny Hamlin was in Bubba Wallace's spot and it was Ty Gibbs on the inside making that move? Oh boy. There's a different dynamic in that sense where Ty Gibbs is not in the playoffs, looking for his first win. And we're coming off last race weekend. And this is where I think, as much as Denny Hamlin is a great driver, I just sometimes feel like he sometimes puts himself in these bad spots, because after New Hampshire, Kevin Harvick on the podcast said the move at New Hampshire was the moment he lost the championship. I know we talked a little bit about in the pre-race show that Hamlin's going to be motivated to go out there, win stage 1. He did that. He got stage 2. But as you said, that late caution, that poor pit stop, now almost seems like he's in the worst controversy compared to last race weekend with Ty Gibbs. Because at least with Ty Gibbs, people are there, well, Ty Gibbs shouldn't be racing his teammates that hard. And then they bring up about Ty Gibbs and how a lot of people don't seem to respect him that much. But now it's like, well, you just took away the win from a team you co-own, who we don't know if they'll be around or not, and facing double elimination. It sounded like a little bit in the post-race interview, the emotions got to Denny Hamlin. And I just can't help but think on Monday, when he records his podcast and when he talks to the media before the race weekend begins, sounds so much different compared to post-race at New Hampshire and today at Kansas, where it just seems like there's a lot more emotion, a lot more frustration. Granted, he just got out of a race car, much different than talking to the podcast microphone or the media. But I have to ask, did Denny Hamlin choke away another championship and eliminate his team essentially?
Absolutely not. I think that's truly a silly comment. I do. And I don't know why. It just seems like Harvick kind of. I didn't agree with his point about almost defending Ty Gibbs in that situation last week. It just seemed like he was talking down upon Hamlin. I don't know why. I mean, to each their own. Obviously, he knows a lot more than I would about anything with to do with racing. But it just seemed weird about a comment like that, especially two of the greatest drivers in the history of this sport, and one bashing the other, and then vice versa, because obviously Hamlin bashes Harvick here and there too. But yeah, it just seemed like to say that he lost the championship at that moment, that's silly. There's a lot. There's still 6, 7 more races. I didn't mean to say the meme, but there's still 6 to 7 more races left in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't get that. I think Hamlin is technically second in the standings if it wasn't for a win in advance. So Larson, surprisingly, actually would have the points lead right now because Blaney, obviously, his bad day today, his first bad day in months, that took him out of the points part, but he's still going to win in. And then Chase Elliott was obviously farther down anyway. But yeah, to say that he choked on the championship, I think that's silly. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think Denny Hamlin still is a favorite to, I would say, make the championship 4. I really do. Just Hamlin's luck, the way it's gone. He hasn't made the championship 4 in a couple of years. It obviously started when Ross Chastain did a video game move and took him out, and then he hasn't been back since before that, which is kind of crazy to think. But yeah, it's just, I don't think he choked it. I think Hamlin finishing second, again, still 1 win away from 60, has 4 or 5 wins already this season. I mean, to say that he's out of it right now because of one, quote, bad incident where he still finished pretty decent, 12th, I think it was, and then to come another thing and finish second here at this race, I don't think Hamlin's out, but I think the energy that you need to give Hamlin is to try to count him out, because that's when he seems to come back and really give it his all. So that's how I feel. I think to any driver to say their championship hopes are gone, besides maybe Cindric, Reddick, and probably Bubba as well, the way the standings are, I think those other 9 drivers have just as much of a shot as each other to win the championship, especially since there are still 1 more race in this round, then another full round after this, and then a 1-race championship round after that. So still a long way to go. I will still be writing every Saturday or Sunday night until that November 2nd date. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on those comments.
Yeah, I have to agree. I just feel if Dan Hamlin truly choked, it would be a mistake where we'll be talking about that was uncharacteristic of Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's going to race aggressively. We've seen that at this track before, how he raced Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson ended up in the wall. He's going to go for the win. Multiple drivers in that same scenario would have done the same thing. He still came home in second place. That's still a really good point state. Does it sting as well that I didn't get to win and my employee's upset at me? Yeah, that's going to sting. But it's just the nature of the beast where we're in the playoffs. It's going to make things harder when you don't win and you come up short and try to advance. I think Denny Hamlin is still championship favorite. He's going to go into the Roval. He's very good point-wise. I don't see why he can't advance out unless he has like absolute bad luck and is out on the first lap and everyone below the cut line has a really good day. When you look at Las Vegas, could win there. Martinsville, he could win there. Talladega, he could win there. He still has 3 great races up ahead. And then Phoenix, Arizona. It's not over for Denny Hamlin. I think Harvick just wanted to point out something like this could be the moment where it falls apart. Denny Hamlin responded, showing that he's moved on from this. And I think by the Roval, he'll move on from this. I would say even 23XI might be able to move on from this because they know the bigger picture is Let's just go out there, perform, and do the best we can. With that said, in the chat room, we have a comment, and is from Darren Jones. Thank you for tuning in. Denny ruined it for Bubba. Yep, and that's pretty much what happened when the team owner is going for the win. No power steering, puts you in the wall. Oh, that's just gonna Monday. Denny Hamlin, boy, he probably went through an interesting Monday morning meeting at Joe Gibbs Racing last week. Now he's gonna go through an interesting one at 2311. And I think at the end of the day, people got to realize too, while he has that team, he wants them to be successful. He needs to be successful for his team, and his spotter is not saying, Bubba's on the outside to don't race him dirty. He's just saying, car outside. Yeah, Denny Hamlin knows who it is. He's still going to race hard. So I just think people, come on, Denny Hamlin, he's a racer. I don't think the championship's over for him unless the 3 races next round he doesn't win any, and we see a Byron or a Elliott or somebody get enough points to get in ahead of him. Now, one of those drivers that are going to be looking at trying to get better points, of course, will be all the drivers that are below the cut line because they're just trying to get whatever they can next race weekend. Ross Chastain, if I was him, I'd be like, Shane Van Gisbergen, give me all your setup. I just full send, try to see if I could do anything. Because at the end of the day, he's facing an elimination. The 3 Joe Gibbs Toyotas comfortably ahead. Briscoe 21 points. Normally, I would say 20 points, that buffer range where that's only 2 stage wins. Assuming SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen wins stage 1 and stage 2. Briscoe doesn't need to worry about that occurring because he's out of the playoffs. So hopefully that'll be the case for him. But it's interesting, the balance of power between the manufacturers is going to go from majority Toyotas, well, the fact that we're looking at 2 Toyotas being eliminated, tied with the Chevrolet and Toyotas. So 3 Chevys, 3 Toyotas, and possibly the 2 Penske Fords. I mean, really, Byron, the lowest Chevrolet from Hendricks, is plus 40, 6th place. So he has to feel pretty good about the Roval. So here's my question. The Roval, potentially SVG is going to win the race. For the teams 20 plus and higher, I feel like, you just got to run a clean race. We're good. Really, it's Joey Logano that might be on the hot seat in case a Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Todd Reddick, Austin Cindric wins, and he cannot get around Chase Briscoe. So do you think all the teams are also, in a way, not only focusing on the Roval next weekend, but knowing the circumstances, already looking at Las Vegas and focusing on that? Because Las Vegas, the 1.5 mile oval, where they truly control their destination compared to Talladega.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you got to focus on both. You don't want to feel like it was a Tyler Reddick situation when he won at Homestead and then they went to Martinsville, and I think my 2010 Honda Civic had the same pace as Tyler Reddick did at Martinsville that race because they were so focused on Phoenix. So you have to almost show, and you have to be ready for both. And you look at the standings, I don't know what the biggest cut or jump to the cut line is in the second round. I know the first was 20 points heading into the final race to get in. But yeah, Ross Chastain, he's won on road courses. Bubba Wallace has finished up front on road courses. Tyler Reddick has won on road courses. Austin Cindric, I am surprised, has not won on a road course. I feel like when he came in the Cup driving that 33 car for Penske at the time, I thought we were like, wow, this kid's going to win because he was doing so well in Xfinity. And he just never really won on a road course at Cup. That shocks me. So it wouldn't surprise me if he pulled one out of there and got it done. But yeah, I think a lot of the teams really, you have to focus on Las Vegas too, because that's truly why I think Joey Logano has 3 championships, is because he won the first race of each of the round of 8 each time he went on to win the championship, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I gave him all that time to focus on the end game race, and look at what he did. 3-time champion Joey Logano. So it's one of those things. However, I do want to mention something specifically for the Roval. I don't know if 21 points is safe for Briscoe, because looking at it, I'm looking at the results. You have guys who have competed in 3 races at the Roval in the next gen era: Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Stenhouse, Corey LaJoie, Austin Dillon, Justin Haley. All three of those guys have a better, or all of those guys have a better average finish at the Roval than Chase Briscoe. This has just not been Chase Briscoe's track, and that's part of the reason why I picked him to get eliminated. But he's clearly proving me wrong, and I tip my invisible cap to him. He's been truly incredible these playoffs. But then again, he really isn't that far ahead. Something goes wrong. A guy like, say he finishes 36, 37, something like that. Say a guy like Ross Chastain gets some stage points, stays out, and then gets a lucky caution at the end, or a guy like Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, get stage points in both and then finish in the top 5. Chase Briscoe could be worried watching the results. So I just want to say it's not over till it's over, but it pretty much is. I wouldn't doubt if those 4 were eliminated again. But Joey Logano hasn't truly been the best on road courses, except he's pretty decent at the Roval. I want to give him that. He hasn't won, but Logano's one of those guys in the playoffs. It seems like he turns into a different type of Logano. So again, good for him too. But yeah, I think a lot of the teams would be focusing on Las Vegas and pretty much the round of 8 tracks. But at the same time, if you put too much focus into that, one bad day for a guy like Chase Briscoe, one bad day for a guy like William Byron's 40 points to the cut line, but a bad day for a guy like Briscoe or Logano could mean a good day for Chastain or Bubba or Reddick or Cindric. Cindric pretty much has to win, but the other 3 that I had mentioned, they have a great points day and actually get good stage points and finish inside the top probably 5, then Briscoe would be going home after having an incredible playoff run. That's just the way, unfortunately, playoffs in racing, not many series have it. There's only 2. NASCAR started it. Hopefully NASCAR can end it possibly, but you don't know what's going to happen there. So that's just my thought about it. I think you got to focus on the Roval. I don't think you can put all the focus to Vegas. Even if you are Ryan Blaney, even if you are Chase Elliott, I think any win, regardless of if you're locked in or not, can mean so much, such a morale, such a confidence boost for your organization heading into another race, and money. Besides the open cars that are still in the playoffs, right? You get a good amount of money that can help your team every time you win. So I say go for it. But then again, I don't really know much like they do. So we're just going to sit here and watch it on Sunday next week at 3 p.m. Eastern time is when it starts. I know that because that's the last sentence in my story, pretty sure, one of them. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be fascinating to Roval because I think it's going to be interesting to see how the teams, especially Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, we know they both could win at that track. Are they going to show up, be winning contenders? Because the big benefit is valuable points for that next round. But if they don't, then I'm starting to think, okay, how strong are they going to be at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? I mean, you could put all your chips into Las Vegas Motor Speedway just under the impression of, well, Talladega is going to be a wild card. Martinsville might be a wild card, but we've seen how Martinsville, I mean, it seems like the last couple of years when it comes to Martinsville, that 24 team is just missing and off the pace and nearly eliminated. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun this race. It's following how the teams all respond to it. One of the things, Joey Logano, this race, he's plus 13. He has to feel pretty good. He was in the top 10. Considering where he started, we said you're going to have to take advantage of pit stops and improving their performances. They did that. But he got caught up in a big crash during the restart. Ryan Blaney was also involved with several other drivers from Carson Hocevar, Austin Dillon. Just a restart. A squeeze, I believe, between Logano, Cindric, and another car. Gregson, I believe. And that triggered that miss. But then there was another big crash which took out Joshua Berry, the other Penske car. Zane Smith climbs the wall, rides it with the driver's side essentially grinding along the racetrack. So the underneath part of the car is facing the crowd, the catch fence. Rolls down, I believe twice, flips over, lands back on his wheels. Driver is okay. It was interesting. He said it was those hits as the car was rolling that stung the most. hurt the most. Surprised by this kind of crash at Kansas, and is there anything NASCAR could do to prevent such a repeat by looking at research at their R&D center?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the craziest accidents I think we have seen. I think even Tyler Reddick last year flipping, was it at Vegas? That also was kind of like how the heck did that happen? And I'm glad Zane got out of the car under his own power. I know he's probably going to have to do extensive testing and stuff to make sure he's okay. And he seemed fine in the interview. But yeah, that was weird. Just the cut to there's like, oh, there's trouble. And then all of a sudden Zane Smith has two wheels on the ground riding the wall like that. That was like, what? So it sucks for him too. I wanted to point out that stat. Our Ben Schneider sent us a stat in our group from Justin on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, that it was 22 years to the day that a number 38 Ford flipped with a driver sponsored by Napa winning. So it happened September 28th, 2003 at Talladega, and it happened September 28th, 2025 at Kansas Speedway. So Elliott Sadler and Zane Smith are now in that company, which is very interesting. I just wanted to point that stat out because talk about a weird stat there. I don't know what NASCAR really could have done there. It was like a freak. I think it was a freak accident. I really do. It was just one of those things where Zane Smith's on the throttle, and if you get hit, John Hunter Nemechek plowed into him. Let's get out of the way. I don't know what John Hunter Nemechek was thinking there. Just completely destroyed him, and he went right up and he slammed on his tires. And obviously, if you're in motion and you're on the wall and you get a little up, you're gonna go woo, and then that's what you're gonna do. It reminds me a lot. It was a week before I was born. Ron Hornaday at New Hampshire had a similar thing where he hit the wall and he kept it full throttle and actually had two tires riding the wall, but he ended up getting off the wall. Zane Smith tumbled, so it was different. But that's a fun video if you want to look that up. I think it was like July 22nd or 3rd or 4th, something like that in 2001. It was at New Hampshire. I'll look that up. I thought that was pretty interesting. But that's what it kind of reminded me of, though, like an accident like that where a driver was up like that. And even Martin Truex Jr. in the 8 car, I think it was the Busch Series at the time, same thing, rode the wall like that. That's a very funny no context moment. And I think even for Zane Smith, as long as he's okay, you can kind of laugh about the fact that the camera cut and he's up on his side. But NASCAR has done a lot to prevent these cars from flipping. I just think that the odds of that, I really wish we could know the statistical probability of that happening. And then the flip, though, it's scary. Those hurt. And I know this car is built, a lot of us talk, these hard hits really are not as bad. But when you land on your roof like that, it seems not a safe thing. But really, I don't know how much safer they can get. These cars are heavy. So when you have 3,500 pounds landing like that, yeah, it's a tough hit. So I'm glad he's okay, at least for the time being. We're not sure, obviously, infield care center, and then we'll have to learn about his health after that. But wishing him the best. But it's definitely probably the most surprising accident we have seen in quite a while. I think it was even less surprising than we saw. Was it LaJoy flipped last year, just on the speedway, just woo, so like that. That was definitely less surprising than this one. So this takes the cake for that in terms of most surprising accident I think I've witnessed in terms of flipping. But yeah, I don't know what NASCAR can do. I don't have a degree in aerodynamics. I have a degree in communications and media. So I'm not going to comment on that like I'm a professional.
Yeah, I think it can't hurt for NASCAR to just try to figure out what happened. It, from my perspective, almost looked like if the fender got just pushed in just enough because you had John Hunter Nemechek squeezing you up there, and the wheel just happened to got the safety barrier the right angle to climb up, go over. Not a whole lot you could do, really. I mean, it's just one of those deals. These aren't open wheel cars, so the chances are slim, but it happens, and I would say it's slim. It's just one of those deals where I don't know what you could do as to when the rollovers occur, trying to make them sting less. But if NASCAR could review it, great. I think that'll be something they will look at. But just overall, I don't think there could be a whole lot of action following that. Now, this race for Kansas, I joined Joshua Birch earlier for his watch along to commentary as well too. And this race, from start to finish, something was going on. You had racing on the track, you had the pit stops, more racing on the track, strategy talk, then the cautions, tire management, a little bit of fuel management. It just had a little bit of everything. 9 cautions total, 2 red flags. And despite Denny sweeping the race, stage 1 and stage 2, this was still a fascinating race with plenty of action all over. Where does Kansas rank this year? Is it one of the best races of 2025?
I think so. I really saved itself from kind of like I think Bristol in a sense saved itself from Kyle Larson dominance. And I'm not saying it's because Kyle Larson dominated. It wouldn't if the other 35 guys in the field did the same thing Kyle Larson did the last time we were at Kansas, last time we were at Bristol. I would really say the same thing and he just led pretty much the whole race and it was kind of boring. But this time around, even though Hamlin led 159 laps, it was exciting. There were a lot of and towards the end, obviously, there was a lot of cautions. I think both of us mentioned it was probably going to run green in the pre-race show for a while, and then all of a sudden the cautions were going to breed a lot more cautions than it did. I didn't expect a red flag like we got, too, but I think it was definitely a top-tier race. I think the finish reminds you a lot of, I think the Brickyard 400 was super exciting as well with that finish. And I hate overtime's not my favorite thing in the world, but it in this case it did help 2 great finishes that wouldn't have been as great. But yeah, looking at them, I mean, some of the races this year were exciting. Probably depends on your perspective, right? I mean, any of us at Grid Network watching Shane Van Gisbergen win a road course since we've been following him for the entire existence of this network. That was super exciting to watch, but then again, he was winning by 16 seconds in Mexico and stuff like that. So I don't know if that was more exciting because of the on-track action or just the circumstances around the one-time event, stuff like that. I think Darlington was exciting, even though Chase Briscoe kind of dominated. I thought Pocono was exciting too, even though Briscoe won that one too. So Briscoe seems to be winning everything now, but even Richmond was kind of exciting. I know Austin Dillon led most of the race, but just the circumstances and the on-track stuff. So I would say Kansas definitely a top 5 race, I would argue, this season. There's been a lot of not fun ones this year. That's just the product of a lot of things. The car probably being one of them, probably being the main one of them. But, yeah, I don't know how much better it could have gotten. I guess if you had the finish was closer than 0.069 seconds. I know a couple of years ago it was 0.001 or something like that. So, yeah, I think this was exciting. I think this was perfect for Kansas to keep NASCAR on their toes and SMI and that to be like, hey, we still deserve at least one date, regardless of if you try to overhaul the schedule in the next couple of years, at least give us this playoff date. So I think this was great for Kansas and great for the race fans. I think intermediates are clearly proven to be the best track in this car, even though some of them are the most boring races with this car. Obviously, the last Kansas race prior to this was super boring, but you just got to be happy. And I'm interested to see the Jeff Gluck poll. I think Chase Elliott winning is definitely going to inflate that instead of Hamlin or Bubba or even Briscoe or Bell winning that race. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for that Gluck poll to be 85 and above. So I'm curious. I know we'll revisit that probably next pre-race or next show we have. I assume Ben and Brandon will be on talking about it too. So in the next couple of days. So yeah, that's how I feel. I thought it was great. And if you didn't like it, then again, I feel like you have every right to not have liked what occurred for whatever reason. If you're a Toyota fan specifically, that he had history for Daniel Cespedes, who does incredible statistics and graphs. Truly give him a follow on social media. He's incredible. He had a tweet ready, or X post, whatever the heck they call it now, had one ready that was like Toyota for the first time in history swept the top 5, and then Chase Elliott happened. So clearly that did not happen, but that's my thought. Finally, you guys are done hearing from me, it sounds like, so that's a good thing.
I would say easily a top 5 race. And you brought up an interesting point. Some of these good races still had a driver that either dominated the entire race, such as Darlington, where Chase Briscoe was just looked like the Martin Truex Jr. of the past. Still a lot of action, a lot of good racing here and there. Kansas, I mean, it looks like a Denny Hamlin domination, but there was still a lot of good racing all over. And of course, once Denny Hamlin was even in the dirty area, he still had to work his way to the front. The fact that we had so much racing, I think, really was a good testament of where they've been improving with this. I mean, we had a good number of good races, and I think this was a good race for NASCAR in general as an industry, just getting some positive attention to the series, positive attention to the playoffs as we enter the Roval next race weekend. Of course, next race weekend, we'll be previewing and recapping the Roval race and who's in the round of 8 for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. That will conclude our NASCAR portion of the program. MotoGP is next, but before we let you go, Matt, we want to start with your shining moment. Encourage everyone to share your shining moment as well in the chat room.
Absolutely. Yes, there'd be a couple of them. One would be it's going to be kind of a sleeper one from NASCAR, but I think Shane Van Gisbergen, or crew chief, kicked out of the race pretty much because of the inspection infringement or whatever. Gets suspended first race without his normal crew chief, does a pass-through penalty, and we get a Shane Van Gisbergen top 10 on an oval. That is pretty awesome, and our very own Tanner Smith was there to see it, so I know people give him crap in the YouTube comments about his comments about Shane Van Gisbergen, but he got to witness firsthand the top 10 on an oval for SVG. So I hope he had a lot of fun at that race. Very excited to have him back next week. But yeah, that was probably my one shine moment from NASCAR. And then if you look at MotoGP, just a segue for you and Kobe, I mean, one of the best to ever do it in motorsports. Finally clinched that inevitable championship again, the 7th to be exact. So I think Marc Marquez in general, I know you and Kobe are going to touch on him. Incredible. He didn't win, though, which is kind of funny, but he did win a championship, and that's all that matters. He's deserved it. He's gone through hell and back these last couple seasons. So for him to finally get that trophy, that very unique trophy, he deserves it. 7 championships and then 9 total championships, but I'm not as familiar with MotoGP. I'll let you and Kobe discuss why he's got 9 and 7 technically. So yeah, thank you guys again for having me. Please check out gridnetworktv.com. After this, there will be a NASCAR recap, so please share it on social media, leave a comment even on the story, and just very thankful for the opportunity again. Joe, I had a lot of fun with you today. It's just us two for the pre-race, and then obviously we got the 3 of us here for the post-race. But yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, Matt. And as you mentioned, Marc Marquez, of course, thumbnail has the finish of the NASCAR Cup Series. But before that thrilling finish, this was going to be the thumbnail we had, as you mentioned, Matthew, Marc Marquez holding the MotoGP World Championship trophy. They redesigned the trophy. I'm not a huge fan of the redesign, but I do love the idea of how each champion, it used to be a checkered flag, so it was a different checkered flag. You'll put it there, and it just continues spiraling with all the future champions. And he put in the newest piece that says Marc Marquez, number 98 Ducati, 2025. Koei, what a moment at Japan.
Yeah, Joe. And speaking of that trophy, it was really funny watching Mark try to put it in because he was having some trouble trying to get it to snap. It was like a little puzzle piece, and yeah, it wasn't a big fan when I first saw this trophy initially, but after seeing how each year you're gonna be able to snap in the champion, I think that's a cool feature to add there. And it was a historic Japanese Grand Prix in MotoGP. And I guess we can say the comeback is complete because Marc Marquez finished second in the race to claim his 9th premier championship, time Valentino Rossi with 7 MotoGP World Riders Championships, and he joins the elusive club of motorsports legends across the world to win 7 titles, such as AJ Foyt, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Jimmy Johnson, Valentino Rossi, as I mentioned, Jamie Whincup, Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Loeb, Sebastian Ogier, and now at age 32, the Spaniard Marc Marquez joined the list of 7-time champions. That seems to be the magical number in motorsports. It's really rare if someone gets an 8th championship. And Joe, considering where he was at the start of 2020, then the accident, all the injuries, the crashes, the struggles with Honda, and the move to Ducati, does this make the title even more special considering what he went through after Jerez in 2020?
This makes it so much more special for Marc Marquez. As soon as he crossed that finish line, you could see the emotion through the visor as he crossed and realized he got championship number 7. This was a championship I would have to say some of us thought may never happen, because after that accident in 2020, and then some of the accidents that occurred afterwards, how he was getting injured, that one crash, I believe, in Thailand, where he just went flying off that Honda and re-injured himself. There was a period where several of us were concerned about his own safety, that he's pushing it too hard. He might end up retiring. This might be the end of Marc Marquez. A lot of doubt, a lot of uncertainty, and Honda did not have a good bike for him. It was just not working out. I mean, it just seemed like, okay, Marc Marquez of the first 6 championships is going to be different than the Marc Marquez post the 2020 crash. But then last year, he signs with Ducati. He's not with the factory team, but he goes out there and he gets some wins. And it looks like maybe he got something. Then he's going to replace Nea Bastianini in the Ducati factory team in 2025. He just came out swinging like this was the Marc Marquez. This looked like as if Marc Marquez had never left. The Marc Marquez that we knew from 2019, 2018 when he claimed the Grid Ranking World Championship, this looked like him. And considering the length of time, 2020 Jerez, which that was the first race. This was during the pandemic era. First race for the season, very delayed, had that crash. To now, a 7-time world champion, the first one with this brand new redesigned trophy. That has to be so sweet. And I think you may have seen the celebration they do traditionally after the race, where the rider parked their bike and they have some sort of big celebration. Marc Marquez watching that video of his career and his comeback, I think that was one of the most powerful celebrations we've seen MotoGP organize, and really captured what he went through to get the 7th championship.
Yeah, like one of the announcers on the MotoGP broadcast said after the race, he said someday they need to make this into a movie. I think this would be an incredible motorsports movie. Maybe they're already working on it now that he's won the championship. But when you really think about it, Marc Marquez's life in the last few years has truly turned into an epic plot that you see somewhere in a movie. So hopefully we'll get the Marc Marquez story on the big screen someday, and maybe that'll end up being their version of F1, the movie. And it's really crazy because, Joe, I didn't really start following MotoGP until I came here to Grid Network, but I knew who Marc Marquez was. I knew he was one of the best over there, him and Valentino Rossi, going back and forth. And even then, a lot of people consider Marc Marquez one of the GOATs of MotoGP, given, all the championships and races he had already won before he suffered his injuries in 2020. Then the crash came, and then he admittedly come back too soon. He was quoted over the weekend admitting that he came back way too soon from that injury. It just made things worse, and then he just snowballed. And then Honda was struggling, as I mentioned, and it was like injury after injury, mistake after mistake, and we all wondered, have we seen the best of Marc Marquez? Is his career now on the downslide, and that he's not going to get any better? And admittedly, Joe, I thought that we'd seen the best of Marc Marquez, and he would probably never reach these heights ever again. But last year, he started showing some signs that he could be that Marc Marquez again. And this year on the factory Ducati alongside Pecco Bagnaia, we're going to talk about in a moment, he's gone out there, and completely taken the number one rider job away from Pecco Bagnaia. And in many ways, he's kind of defeated Pecco Bagnaia mentally this year. And he shows that he is still, the ultimate gold standard of motorcycle racing. Marc Marquez, what a wonderful job done by him. And answering the question, I do think that, given all the struggles he's been through in the last few years, it does make this title even more special. And it was really nice to see how emotional he was to win this title. And the one thing that I'm going to take away from this is what he says: I'm at peace now. Yeah, he said he was at peace with, everything he's been through in the last few years. And winning this championship is basically like closure. So now he can move on, because it was obviously still eating at him in his mind, all the ups and downs since 2020. And now he finally got back to being where he is. And we know that his arm is obviously not the same as it was pre-2020. And he admitted, that could have potentially been a career-ending injury. And when you see athletes suffer, really horrible injuries, a lot of times they're either not able to come back, or they're not able to come back as the player they once were. And in Marc Marquez's case, he definitely came back as the guy he was pre 2020, and I have to argue he looks even better than the guy he was before. And if Marc Marquez continues to ride at this level, and the Ducati factory team continues to give him a good bike year in and year out, I think we could certainly see another run here on Marc Marquez. Yeah, before his injury, went on the run of championships there, and I think he can go on another run here and win even more championships. It would not be a surprise if we're here 1 year from now, Joe, and we're talking about Marc Marquez winning a 8th MotoGP World Championship. So it's really nice to see him get this done and witness history in Japan. And with the championship now over, Pecco Bagnaia finally showed something with a weekend sweep, won the sprint race and the Japanese Grand Prix, and all year long, Pecco's been missing in action. Outperformed by Marc Marquez, and even his brother, Alex Marquez, has been getting the best of him on some weekends. And Pecco has seemingly been unhappy at Ducati. And in Japan, he looked like that 2-time MotoGP world champion we saw before this season. Can Pecco Bagnaia go out there and run the final 5 race weekends, going for wins and being this guy we saw before this year?
I think he can. The big thing for Pecco Bagnaia is just having that confidence and just pushing himself, but not to the level where mistakes occur. We talked about this, especially before he got that first championship, how he had the history of just bending it, just going out there, putting the bike on the side, end of the race. I think he has a potential still. This year was frustrating, and gotta be honest, if you went from the number 1 rider of the team, and then you now got Marc Marquez, technically equal equipment, technically equal treatment, but he just outperforms you on such a level to where everybody just, okay, he wrecked the championship up with 5 races to go. That's going to hurt. If he could just go out there and, okay, I just need to go out there, championship, don't think about it, just go out there, get the best I can do. I'm confident he's going to be in contention for the wins. I mean, him and Marc Marquez has the best bikes out there. There's no reason why he should be getting more podiums, more sprint wins. The thought that he finally got his first sprint win of the year just truly shows that he had not been on the level he needed to be for 2025. And I think if he could continue a strong movement, prove to the folks over at the Ducati team, look, I still got it. Next year, Ducati's going to have a 1-2 battle for the championship, and it's going to be closer. That's what he will love to indicate, but he has to step up his performance. I think he could do it. He has the bike. He has the team. Just can he not make those mistakes?
Yeah, and it's really interesting. One race weekend after he called out the team, he goes out and puts on a Pecco Bagnaia masterclass. We've been seeing in the last couple of years or so, because you remember he said something along the lines like he was like sick of the team and and the downslide in performance, and then the team principal Ducati came back and said, well, I'm sick of him too. So it seemed like things were not going well, and we know in racing winning can cure a lot of things. And I think even if he was frustrated with the team and the way you have to ride the bike, or the team frustrated with him, I think that this will buy them some more time to potentially mend any hurt feelings in this situation. But it was really good to see Pecco Bagnaia, get back on form this weekend. And if he was riding this way all year long, the championship battle between him and Marc Marquez would be absolutely epic. So if they're the 2 front runners again next year, hopefully Pecco can be close and we can see them go back and forth. It'll be great next year if we got a championship battle like we got in F1 in 2021 between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. That would be great to see those 2 Ducati factory riders going at it, just swapping it back and forth week after week, taking win off of each other after win. Yeah, I think that would be great for MotoGP if we're able to get a truly, close championship battle. But, not meant to be this year. Marc Marquez, huge congratulations to him. He completely wiped out the competition this year. If he really wanted to, he could decide to go on vacation now and heal his body for next season and just let everybody else go out there and race. But, he's a competitor. Now the pressure is off. Now you can just go out there these final race weekends, just enjoy the ride and see how many more wins you can get. later this year. But one thing I want to point out about Pecco Bagnaia, he got really lucky there at the end of the Grand Prix because I was afraid his engine was going to go kaboom there because so he had like over a 4-second lead over Marc Marquez, and at the end it like came down to 2 seconds, and then it got slightly under 2. I'm thinking, oh no. I said, are we gonna really wait till the final lap and then the engine's going to blow and then it's gonna be over? Because we saw more smoke. It kept appearing, but thankfully the Ducati motor it held up and he was able to make it to the checkered flag. So I guess crisis averted there.
Yeah, crisis averted. I remember the first sign of that blue smoke's like, did I just see blue smoke? Did he smoke up the tires or something? Dan was like, uh-oh. How did that Ducati hold on? Who knows? But he made it work. He got that win. He needed it. And the camera work of the folks at MotoGP catching the tensity of all the fans just holding their hands, just thinking, don't blow. They were cheering for Pecco. That was something else. Great work by MotoGP. And, of course, they're in Japan for the race weekend. Just NASCAR and MotoGP this weekend, so not a lot of movement in the grid ranking. The top 10 remains unchanged. The only difference is, of course, the scores of Denny Hamlin, who, of course, lost some ground this race weekend. And then Marc Marquez score has changed as well, too, a little bit, and finishing second place. And then taking a look at the rest of the grid ranking, this is where you see some more changes, particularly Ryan Blaney lost ground. So odd time got around him. So it's Blaney, Larson, and Briscoe making 15, 16, 17. And then towards the back, Pecco Bagnaia moved up to 22nd. I mean, that's just a good example of this type of season he has had where he's been that 20s at the grid ranking. If he could start putting together some strong runs, he could still climb up the ranking, but still going to be quite an effort to get the top 10. It'll be really hard because we're coming down to the end of it. Next race weekend, Singapore, the Charlotte Roval, and Manalika for MotoGP, as MotoGP will be down to 4 races after the Manalika Grand Prix, and we'll be coming down, pick a winner. We'll be down to, well, maybe like 32 races, so it's running out of time. And nobody scored MotoGP points this race weekend, and that's it. Let's go to our shiny moment.
Yeah, I thought about picking Pecco Bagnaia. Well, actually, one person switched and did. Matt White went with Pecco Bagnaia for the Grand Prix, but I didn't want to make the same mistake I did at Watkins Glen. I picked Michael McDowell instead of Shane Van Gisbergen, and SVG ended up winning. Tried to be clever there, but I think if someone is really good at a certain racetrack, or as dominant as Marc Marquez is, unless he's like starting outside the top 10, I feel very hesitant to go with someone else, like I'm going to, miss a freebie like I did with SVG at Watkins Glen. But yeah, it's time for our Grid One Shining Moment from this race. And we can let us know down in the chat below if you're watching here live or on replay. What's the one thing that stood out to you, whether it was from MotoGP in Japan or NASCAR at Kansas? And Joe, I'll let you go first. What's your one shining moment?
My shining moment is going to be from Kansas. And it's going to go to Chase Elliott and that team getting the win. I feel in general, when it comes to Hendrick Motorsports, there's always the pressure to perform. And especially when you have a driver like Kyle Larson, William Byron there. They've got multiple wins. Chase Elliott, he has a championship. Yes, he's had a season of multiple wins. But it seems like lately it's been a little bit more on the quiet side. I think some fans start grumbling about, NASCAR most popular driver's not winning. He's not getting the job done. Well, he got the job done today. Yes, a little bit of luck, but still the pit call to get the 4 tires while everybody else got 2 tires, that was a big difference in him getting around all those Toyotas to get that win. To see him smile in victory lane, get the playoff win, and to hear the crowd, that's good for the sport. We always want to see what's best for the sport. We love to see good competition, good racing. For Chase Elliott to put himself all day, top 10, running strong, good calls by the pit crew. And then to do that pit strategy of, let's go for 4 tires. Yeah, we're going to be restarting, I believe it was 7th or 6th before it got crazy. But we know we'll have better tires. With the overtime efforts and everything, it played out for him and that team. They got the job done. So Chase Elliott is my one shining moment.
And my shining moment going to go to the guy I just talked about, Marc Marquez. I think that his comeback story, is just so unique and so rare, as I already mentioned, that when an athlete suffers a major injury, very rarely do they return to the form they once were or become even better. And this year, Marc Marquez has been on the exact same level he was pre-injury, or you could argue that he's even better given how dominant he was this season. At age 32, Marc Marquez, he could continue to ride maybe another 7, 8 more years if he really wanted to. Maybe he'll retire sooner, but it's just been truly amazing and a part of his career story. You're the young gun coming into MotoGP, and and you're already the guy out there that gonna be the guy to beat for the next 10, 15, even 20 years. And then you go through these few years of struggles, and on the broadcast I talked about how he basically had these last few years, it kind of like been missing years out of his career, a time when he could have been continuing to dominate the sport. And I can't imagine all of the mental struggles he had to endure through all the ups and downs. Like you try to come back and then you get injured again, basically what Jorge Martin is going through. I know we didn't talk about him, Joe, but I hope Marc Marquez will go to Jorge Martin. I don't know how close they are, and have a conversation with him, because I just feel awful for Jorge. He's once again injured and it looks like he's going to be out for a while once again. He was last year's MotoGP world champion, and he's just been really going through it in another tough year. So, and if anybody knows how tough it is out there, try to get back to what you were, is Marc Marquez. I think a guy like Jorge Martin, who was injured over the weekend, could benefit from talking to Marc and listening to everything that he's gone through. And Marc, he's been truly resilient these last few years, because it's easy to get down in the dumps and quit where things aren't going well, but he persevered. He didn't let these injuries hold him back. He didn't let the mistakes hold him back. The struggles on the Honda either. He moved to Ducati. It's really shocked a lot of people, because they figured since he was a Honda boy, he was going to stay with Honda forever through the end of time. But it seemed like Marc made the right move for his career, and is definitely paying off with another MotoGP World Riders Championship. And looking forward to seeing if this is the start of another string of championships that he can potentially win in this series, and put himself at the very top of the mountain as the GOAT of MotoGP.
The GOAT of MotoGP. It's going to be so interesting to see how Marc Marquez races next year. And of course, Marc Marquez, I think that is the shining moment of the weekend for everybody. With that said, a big thank you to our Patreon investors calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matt, for investing in the Grid Network. Also, one-time contributions to YouTube Super Chat, Buy Me a Coffee, welcome, and of course, GridNetworkTV.com. Follow the Grid Ranking, Grid Endurance Performance Index. They had a pretty eventful weekend at Fuji for the World Endurance Championship, 6-hour race there. Matt White's going to have the full update for everyone. We want to thank everyone for tuning in for Grid Network's Grid Live Wrap-Up. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for Grid Encore. Ben and Brandon have plenty to talk about from the Xfinity Series ARCA. Then we also have Grid Tonight on Wednesday. Kobe, Josh, and Matt will be on the air. We'll be back on the air next weekend to preview everything as well for the Grid Ranking. For Kobe, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's episode of Grid Life Wrap-Up. Once again, big congratulations to the new 7-time champion of MotoGP, Marc Marquez. We'll see you all later. Have a good night.